Good evening. Welcome to episode 29 of About the Cards podcast, live tonight on YouTube. Happy New Year, Steph.
Hey, Happy New Year's.
Happy New
How's it
Year's to
going?
everybody. Hey, I'm good. How are you?
Good to hear. Same. Been busy. I actually do still exist.
He does.
Just busy, hectic week,
I think he's
month,
been missed like 3 of the last 4 shows, or 2 of the last 3, or
2 or 3, I
you know,
think.
hard to keep count when we're having fun without you.
Of course.
So as always, tonight, just get 2 of us. You get Stefan Loeffler, who you can find on Twitter at JunkWaxTwins. Myself, Ben Wilson, who you can find at Our Trading Cards. And our missing compadre tonight, Tim Shepler. Find him at Big Shep79. He's out taking the wife because it is her birthday. So happy birthday, Bianca,
Indeed.
from us here at About the Cards. I don't know that she's listened yet, so she's got to listen now because she got a shout out.
Exactly.
So we're a podcast by collectors, for collectors, and we hope to bring you a smart and insightful podcast each week discussing trading card collecting and anything else remotely related, or anything we can kind of squeeze to be remotely related. We're live every Wednesday, or most every Wednesday, at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on YouTube. You can also follow us on Twitter as a group at About the Cards. We're also available on iTunes and Stitcher. Just hop on either and search About the Cards Pod. You can follow us on YouTube, search About the Cards Pod, and definitely hit the subscribe button and tell your friends.
Yep.
So other than that, you had a nice New Year's. It's always nice when it's quiet,
Absolutely.
Everybody out there getting
Outside of the
stuff.
fireworks.
Yeah, I wasn't gonna stay up, and then I ended up on the couch watching some TV, and it literally ended like at 12:02, so I just missed the ball drop. But my house was full of people that were already asleep, so
Nice.
All right, so let's hop into a couple of things. We have a few kind of some house cleaning stuff. About the Cards is really big for the Topps Living set, and that's kind of something we focus on each and every week. Due to the holiday, everything okay over there?
Yep. Phone.
Due to the holiday, Topps was a little delayed on releasing the set, so we want to go over week 41, 42, and 43, which was released today. So going back to the week of December 19th through 25th, that was week 41. They released card 121 through 123. It was Buster Posey of the Giants, Jorge Alfaro of the Phillies, and David Peralta of the Diamondbacks.
Yep.
Posey missed 4,000, which was surprising. He missed it by 10 orders, 10 cards. And then Alfaro, he bought 6, and he bought 16. He had hit $4,000 on the dot. Alfaro came in at just over 3,400, and Peralta at 3,353. Any surprises there?
No. Well, I mean, outside of none of them hitting 4,000, no, not really. Low week, Christmas coming up, and all the other holidays, let alone. No, not really. Money's tight. It's got to go somewhere.
Yeah, we figured there might be a little bit of a lull heading into the final 2 weeks. It actually was the lowest week as of Christmas.
41 of 41.
It was 41 of 41 at that time, so it was the lowest. I think everybody's kind of surprised Posey didn't hit $4,000. I mean,
sure,
future Hall of Famer, probably. If Maurer gets in, Posey definitely gets in.
Sure.
Posey ends up retiring sooner rather than later, and gets in, and Maurer still
at first base.
Yeah, I mean, comparing him directly to Maurer, the problem is Maurer's retired, so Posey would have to retire within, say, the next 3 years in order to have his candidacy affect Maurer, assuming Maurer's not already in or off the ballot by then.
Right.
But I think, Posey, Maurer, and Molina are all going to be linked together for Hall of Fame. I think those are the strongest candidates over the next, half dozen years. I would have thought Posey would have got a little bit more run.
Sure.
But it's always tough to say because it is the week of Christmas. Bowman Drafted had just come out. Bowman's Best had come out.
Mm-hmm.
People are traveling, and Giants have been down for the last couple of seasons since their World Series in 2014. So, not an overall surprise. I think the subsequent players were relative no names within the hobby as of right now, so that didn't surprise me at all.
Right.
So moving on to the following week, which started on December 26th and ran through today, week 42. It actually eclipsed last week for being our friend over at Topps Living Stat on Twitter compiles all the numbers from week to week, and he said it beat last week's by almost 700 cards. And in this one, you don't want to, and the way he used beat was in a negative manner. Week 41 had 10,759 cards on the print run. This week had 10,064. So it beat it in a negative way.
Go spend time with your wife, Tim.
What's he doing? Checking in on us?
Yeah, he's popping in chat.
No, was he over in the bathroom?
No idea. What chat?
He calls us nerds in the chat room. But yeah, he waits until Bianca excuses herself to go freshen up in the ladies' room to hop in and check in on us. Yeah, and we're the nerds. Gotcha. Okay. Last week's, for anybody that didn't know, was Jim Thome was the headliner, followed by Ryan Yarbrough and Justin Upton. Thome came in at 3753, which ranked 114 out of 126. He was the lowest of the Indians so far. He was the third Indian. Lindor came in at 6,700. Jose Ramirez at 9,700. Ramirez was released first, and I think that was part of the reason that his number might be inflated. This was still at the height of where a lot of guys were cracking, 9 to 12 on a fairly regular basis.
Yep.
So it's kind of hard to compare the three, but Thome's a Hall of Famer now. He didn't hit 4 either. You surprised at all by his numbers?
Yes. Posey, great name, potential Hall of Famer in the end, but Thome is no doubt should be first Hall of Famer. Maybe it's just being a Twins fan, and I'm sure Tim can attest to this too, but he wrecked the AL Central in the late 90s and early 2000s. I'm just really, really surprised he couldn't crack 4, 5, even 6. One of the nicest players as far as fans wise, but when he stepped into that batter's box, oof. There's no it's about where Ryan Yarbrough and Justin Upton filled about right where I thought they would. Justin Upton hasn't been a name in a few years, and rookie unknown pitcher who, up until we looked it up prior to for show notes, I didn't know he went 16-6.
He had great numbers. We had tweeted about that back and forth with our friend Stefan. I think it's Stefan or Steven Benzel.
Right.
16-6, sub-4 ERA. I mean, Blake Snell obviously outshined him on that staff, but what a rookie. And the Rays came on late in the race for the second wild card. As an A's fan, we were watching the Mariners, and then that last 3 or 4 weeks of the season when the A's kind of entrenched themselves in that spot, we're kind of going back and forth with the Yankees for that home field. It's like, man, we got to kind of watch the Rays, and it was until about 10 days or so left in the season when the Rays fell out of the contention. But the Red Sox and Yankees are going to have to contend with the Rays this year, and yeah, I mean, he was an unknown, but he had a heck of a year. So,
sure.
Speaking on Thome, he played for 6 teams. He played the majority. I mean, he played for 24 seasons, but he was in 3 decent markets. I mean, Cleveland, he spent 13 years there.
Right.
So, he would have a big following for any Indians fans that are collecting. But then he also was in Chicago for 4 years with the White Sox and 4 years with the Phillies. And then he had 2 with the Twins, 1 with the Dodgers, and 1 with the Orioles.
Yep.
To speak to what you were saying about him in the batter's box in his Hall of Fame, he hit 612 homers. Right about the time he was finishing up his career, the A's had, this right on the back end of them having signed Piazza and Frank Thomas. And it looked like they were going to do a DH by season. And I was always hoping that, can we get Jim Thome just 1 season? I thought it would have been fun to watch him. And
Absolutely was.
yeah, I mean, he didn't do a whole lot with the Dodgers and Orioles. He only played in 17 and 28 games respectively. So I mean, his career was effectively over. He only hit 3 home runs during those final 2 seasons. But
Right.
what he had done in Cleveland, Philly, and with the White Sox, I thought he would have hit $4,000 at least, especially coming off of Christmas when people are maybe paying attention more, and now you know what your budget is.
Right.
But at the end of the day, what are you gonna do? I mean, we all kind of predicted this lull in this decline. So now that we're over the hump, it'll be interesting to see moving towards spring training, which is 6 weeks away.
Yep, 42 days.
Yeah, it's February 12th is when pitchers and catchers report. So there's a total print run of just over 838,000 as of right now. So it'd be interesting to see when they finally crack 100,000. I think it'll probably be close to April at the rate that they're going.
Right, maybe opening day.
Yeah, it'll be interesting unless we start to see a serious increase over the upcoming weeks. I wouldn't be surprised if we start to see a slow 5 to 7%. I said this on Twitter today. Maybe a 5 to 7% increase over the upcoming weeks, to the point where once maybe March rolls around and we start to see a lot of these spring training games, you're going to start to see guys start creeping back up into the high 4s, low 5s, depending on who they are, of course. Not a whole lot going on. There was Best of Football was released on the 28th. Contenders basketball had come out. As we look ahead this week, let's get into the one last week of Topps Living real quick. Week 43 was released today. It runs from today the 2nd through the 8th. Card 127 is Chris Bryant of the Cubs.
So soon.
7th Cub. It'd be interesting to see if that was like the Goldschmidt that we had talked about. That there have been rumors that Chris Bryant might potentially be traded. Are they trying to squeeze him in as a Cub just in case, which they never did with Goldschmidt?
Possible.
There's a lot of talk too about that picture looking like George Michael and not being the most becoming of him.
Sure.
Eugenio Suarez, the third baseman for the Reds, was card number 128. He's the 4th Red. And then card number 129, Matthew Boyd, pitcher for the Tigers, was the 3rd Tiger. Our compadre Tim basically said that. Who? And lo and behold, he gets a tweet back on Twitter from somebody who had basically said, right? Question mark with a winky face. And the person that had responded was at Matt Boyd 48. So Matt Boyd had seen it. Yep, he had certified. I reached out to him today and he never responded. I was like, hey, why don't you come on the show and talk about it? See if we can get you an extra couple of prints. But that was cool for Matthew Boyd to respond to Tim and our thread of whoever was on that this week.
Sure. And so I mean, nothing against him as a player, and we looked up his stats too. But if the Twins weren't in the division, I wouldn't have heard of him. I think even then, I only remembered as Matt Boyd, not Matthew Boyd. And maybe that's a Topps decision. But I mean, who? For most people, it's not a huge major. Clayton Kershaw or a Verlander or unless you're in the AL Central, probably not going to know the 3rd, 4th starter of a team. Nothing against him at all.
No, it's just there's been a handful. There was the guy for the Twins a few weeks back. What was his name? I forget his name. Jorge something.
Felix Jorge.
There you go.
Exactly.
There are probably about 10 or 12 guys in this list that I think at first look, a lot of even, serious baseball fans, I would consider us both serious baseball fans, Tim as well, right?
Yeah.
That we're like, wait a minute, I kind of know the name, or the name because he's a divisional guy.
Or you've seen it on the card and it's just kind of a,
Yeah, if we're Yankees, Red Sox fans, we're probably a lot more familiar with, Yarbrough, most likely, because we've seen a lot of him It's kind of like I had made comments about Nelson Cruz going, had he signed with the Twins, which he ended up doing a couple weeks ago, that might be what they need to really put themselves in contention with the Indians, and Indians fans go nuts on Twitter. And I was all kinds of names and people questioning, but I wasn't the only person that said it. A lot of people came out and had said that Cruz might be the missing piece of that lineup. And as an A's fan, I mean, he was killing us every time we play, or at least that's what it seemed like. So I was all too happy to give him to the AL Central, and so yeah, we're all familiar with certain guys. It'd be interesting to see. One thing of note, I mean, the Detroit Tigers have been around since the beginning of time. I mean, yeah. I'm going to try to pull up the date that they officially became a team here.
Well, as far as the American League is concerned, 1901.
Well, yeah, it'd be 1901, but they've been around. I'm assuming before that into the 1800s, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, see, they 1894.
Yeah,
the Western League 1894. So they've only had 3 cards. Now, if we do the math and we take the 143 cards, or excuse me, 129 cards, and divide by 30, each team should have 4.3 cards as of right now.
Sure.
And we know the blend hasn't been fair, but with a team like the Detroit Tigers, it should be a little bit more level. They probably should be on their 5th or 6th guy right now.
Ty Cobb, Hank Greenberg, Sam Crawford,
K-Line,
Cecil Fielder, K-Line, Lolich, Denny McLain, even
Whitaker, Trammell. I mean, Trammell possibly earlier the year.
Jack Morris.
So yeah, with with Matt Boyd being number 3, do you recall who the other 2 were?
Miggy and no.
So the first one came out. Pardon?
Al Avila.
The first one came out in week 1, and I think he was card number 3, and that was Nick Castellanos.
Castellanos, yep.
And then later on, I'm not sure what card number, but it was about the middle of the release run, was Victor Martinez.
Yeah.
So if you're a Tiger fan collecting this, I mean, as an A's fan, we've got, Henderson. We've got a couple current players, but we've got Henderson already. As a Twins fan, you've already got Mauer.
Yep.
But if you're a Tigers fan, you got Castellanos, Martinez, and now Boyd. No offense to any of those 3 players. But where's their legend? Where's their big, it's the Tigers.
Where's the huge name?
We're not talking about the Brewers here. Come on. So, yeah, even Cabrera. I mean, I'm assuming he'll get his card this year at some point.
Sure.
But anyway, that's Topps Living. Sorry, ran a little long, but there were a couple of weeks, and we just got numbers for weeks 41 and 42, so we do apologize if that ran a little long in the tooth. There were no new releases this week, but there are a few coming up next week.
Yep.
Leaf Ultimate Draft Baseball, which is technically a 2018 product, is coming out on the 9th. And then 2018 Panini Contenders Football coming out on the 11th. And 2018-2019 Panini Dominion Basketball also coming out on the 11th. So we got some releases next Wednesday and then 2 on Friday. And what's nice is one's baseball, and then you have a football and a basketball. So a nice blend of the 3. So, Leaf baseball may not be your thing if you're a baseball fan, but, for football, Contenders is going to be huge. And Dominion, it should be a nice basketball product as well. So what are your thoughts on planning on grabbing any of that stuff?
Well, I mean, Contenders is a huge name. I mean, even back to the Brady rookie. But I'd much rather forget about football at the moment. And basketball has never really been a huge market for us Timberwolves fans. I mean, Kevin Garnett and Spreewell and Sam Cassell, but kind of bleak in the hometown outside of the ladies. But I mean, I may check out a few boxes of Leaf Draft because, even if they are boxing 15, 16, 17, 18-year-olds, the Team USA type stuff, in this case Panini, but with Leaf, the 17, 18-year-olds coming fresh out of high school, it's kind of cool seeing, hey, this one seems to be a lot more common, so he probably was picked in the 30th round. And see where some of those names actually end up years later.
Yeah, you never know. I mean, some of that stuff has been fun. Some of that stuff is collectible from years past. So it'll be kind of interesting to see how it's all packed out. And of course, we'll get into specifics next week on next week's show.
I mean, for
That'll be
example,
release day.
A few years back here, gotta agree. If I pull up something from a similar product Leaf released a few years back, where is it? Yeah, it's one of those where you just never know where the players actually end up or who they end up being. Sure. But sometimes it's kind of cool seeing, hey, they flamed out at single A. Hey, they flamed out at double A. Hey, they flamed out at whatnot. Or in this case, I submitted it to Commissy and forgot all about it. And
while you're looking for that,
like that,
yeah, Bregman, perfect example. Beautiful out of 25, Stars and Stripes. When you take a look at a draft product, and again, we'll get into this a little bit more next week on release date, but we're all familiar with the saying, history repeats itself. Mm-hmm. So when you're looking to buy a product that's A, unlicensed, and B, of players that have yet to sign and be drafted, so we don't know where they're going to end up. So it's not like you can just go collect your favorite, team prospects like you can with Bowman. It's always nice to go back and look at years past. Look at what they released, like you had there, Stars and Stripes.
Yep.
Look at similar products, find out what names were included in there. Kind of give you an idea of what percentage of this checklist might potentially turn out to be something worth collecting. Kind of gives you a little bit of an insight if there's half dozen names on there in a checklist that runs 70 deep, which would be similar to, say, like Bowman Draft.
Sure.
You might say, hey, this might be something worth prospecting. Grab a couple of the guys that are super cheap on the secondary market. Open up a box. I don't know we don't have the pricing in front of us at the moment for this particular product, but it might be something worth stashing away if for a rainy day, if that's your thing.
Sure.
Who knows? You may end up with an Alex Bregman and, flip it for something you do want if that's not something you do want. It'd be kind of cool to pull that out of a pack and then wait 3 or 4 years, and next thing you know, he's on a World Series team.
Mm-hmm.
So that pretty much, slow week, probably a shorter show. We're going to move on to Infield Chatter, which is our hobby talk section. Tim was super excited this week. Irving Santana _54. He actually followed both Tim and I. I saw that he followed me, and then we got an instant message from Tim saying, "Look who just followed me." And I'm like, "He already followed me too, sucker."
And he was already following me, so sorry, guys.
So, what other professional players or famous people follow you? Do you have anybody that, other than Jose Bautista?
Well, of course. No, I mean, I have a few that have popped up over time. Actually, the one that surprised me the most, I got Tim's Frank Wilson, but no, the one that caught me off guard the most, Fran Tarkenton.
Oh wow!
His business account. He posits himself as kind of a business advisor, and maybe he is, maybe he isn't. I'm not saying he's done well for himself post career. But he'll post like updates of, hey, going to this conference, come see me. Hey, I'm at this signing event. Hey, come see me. But he'll actually occasionally interact with fans too. It's kind of nice to see. A few baseball players here or there, but and the mother of my one of my PCs followed me, which is kind of cool. And that she was my 9th grade gym teacher, I think, 10th grade, somewhere in there. And of course, the women's softball coach at the school. So kind of cool.
Yeah, I don't think I've got anybody. I mean, I've got a couple of older baseball players that have followed me.
Sure.
But nobody real big or recognizable. I've had a lot of interactions with a lot of celebrities throughout the years.
Sure.
I know Jose Canseco is really active and will engage once in a while.
Mm-hmm.
As a big West Wing fan, I've had interactions with Dule Hill, Richard Schiff, a couple of cast members there. Joshua Molina, who's on West Wing, he's also on Sport Night and most recently on Scandal.
Yep.
He'll actually follow you. He is Jewish, and he supports a Jewish charity. And I don't know what it is offhand, but if you donate X amount of dollars to the charity and let him know, he'll give you a follow back as his way of saying thank you for supporting his charity. So
that's kind of cool.
like a lot of Hollywood, I've honestly had to unfollow quite a few people on Twitter because it's just you follow them because you enjoy their acting career.
Right.
And it's just politics over politics, especially with the current president and that regime and how Hollywood butts head with the White House.
Sure.
And it gets extremely dry and monotonous over time. But, it's always fun when you get somebody who's one of your favorite, Dallas Braden, formerly the Oakland A's and a current, broadcaster with the team.
Just
he's interacted. Yeah, he's interacted with myself on Twitter. David LaBrava is extremely active with his fans. He played Happy on Sons of Anarchy. He's a fun follow, and he actually does tattoos down in the Los Angeles area. So I don't know what his backlog is, but my wife Heather's always saying I'd love to get a tattoo of Happy from Happy, and so. It's always fun. Who would be your dream follower if anybody in the world could follow you?
Any person or any company?
You just want Panini to follow you, don't you?
Well, Tops does. Upper Deck does. It'd be nice. I mean, look, one-on-one.
That's true. You listen to Panini? Come on, give him a follow.
I mean, come on, Tracy, do it. But no, I mean, unfortunately, some of my Twins legends have passed in recent years with Killer Brew and naturally Kirby Puckett in 2006 preceding him. I don't know that I have a dream follow.
You don't have a favorite celebrity or?
I mean, most of them for them, at least as far as Twitter goes, it's enough for me to just follow them and see what they're doing. What they're complaining about, what they're ranting about, what they're using Twitter for.
I was so excited. This may have been before your time. There was an old Alan Thicke movie from the late 80s called Not Quite Human. Are you familiar with it?
Familiar with Alan Thicke, familiar with the title, but I don't remember what it's about.
So he was a scientist and he was working for like a toy company or something, and he created a robot, but he kept the technology for himself and created a son who was played by Jay Underwood. And so he was a single father, had a daughter, and he created himself a son. Just a cheesy, made for TV movie.
80s movie.
You're probably familiar with the actress Blake Lively.
Sounds familiar, yeah.
Okay. Well, her older sister Robin Lively played Alan Thicke's daughter in the movie, and oh my gosh, dude, I had such a crush on her growing up, dude. I was in love with Robin Lively, and probably about 2 or so months ago, I tweeted at her because I just watched the movie, and I was like, man. You get all those feels back of when you were a kid thinking, man, that was one of my first crushes. And I was like, dude, if you saw Not Quite Human and you weren't in love with Robin Lively, right? And she liked my tweet. And I was like, dude, I was so excited. I don't think she's acted in anything in 15 years. Obviously, her younger sister made a name for herself. But man, it's like the little things in life. It's like, dude, it's just Twitter. Come on. Nobody cares, but it allows you interaction with certain people, and like I said, some are better than others. So that's always fun. I think my dream one would probably be Nev Campbell, who I was in love with, dude. Okay, so 1996 Scream comes out.
Yep.
My buddy, I was in love with Drew Barrymore. And so I went to see the movie. So spoiler alert, if you haven't seen the movie, earmuffs, she dies like 10 minutes into the movie. I was so mad. I was like, dude, this sucks. I'm going to go get my money back, right? So I started to stand up. And then Nev Campbell comes on the screen. And I look at my buddy, and I'm like, all right, wait a minute. I'll hang out for a little while.
Hang on.
See where this movie's going. Maybe it's okay. Let's see what the plot points are. Why did Drew have to die? So I've been in love with Nev ever since. So any kind of interaction, even if she liked one of my tweets,
sure,
which she hasn't yet, nor has she blocked me despite my numerous attempts.
Wow.
Yeah.
Attempting to get blocked by everyone on Twitter.
Yeah. So some of the people, Mango Bango says his dream would be Sean Connery. I mean, come on, who?
Sure.
I mean, yeah, Sean Connery. No dirty work. That was a great scene. You talking about Sean Connery now or Sean Connery back then? What's the Cub says Brad Ziegler and Pat Neshek both follow his living stat account, which is cool. That is.
Sure.
Hopefully Ziegler gets a card. Neshek did. Our compadre Tim says he already has his dream follow, which is Waxtopia.
Welcome about that again.
Matt wants to know who my most famous blocked by person is. I don't know if he's asking who the most famous that I've blocked or who's blocked me.
I think being blocked by I have one, and it's kind of a story, and I've tweeted about it before. I don't think I've shared it on here. Billy Ripken was going to have a live segment on MLB Network where people could tweet in questions, and one of the co-hosts, I forget the name of the lady reporter, co-anchor, sent out a tweet, something to the effect of, "Hey, any questions for Billy Ripken? Send them out here, and maybe you'll get on the show, whatever." So I send, "Well, can we ask him about fuckface?" It's Billy fucking Ripken. Come on.
Yeah,
and she sends me a response back to the effect of, "And blocked."
Son of a gun.
Really?
Son of
Billy
a gun.
Ripken, fuckface, go hand in hand more than Bannon blocking someone.
They do. I mean, I know if Shep was here tonight, he would say the most famous one. He doesn't even know why, which is Leaf trading cards. We actually mentioned it last week, I think. He does not know why Leaf ever blocked him, but he is blocked by Brian over there. To answer Matt's question, Bill Barnwell blocked me. I'm not a big ESPN guy anymore. I've followed suit and like everybody else, read stuff on the Athletic now. But I was reading an article on ESPN from Bill Barnwell, and he's like, "Oh, the Cowboys need to extend Dak Prescott, and Dak Prescott this, and Dak Prescott that." And I'm just like, and my tweet was, Bill Barnwell loves Dak Prescott as much as Nick Wright loves LeBron James. That was a factual statement. Nick Wright is absolutely in love with LeBron James, and the way that Bill Barnwell was speaking of Dak Prescott, same thing. And apparently that upset Bill, and he blocked me. And I'm like, whatever, dude, you're a second-rate writer that the Athletic doesn't even want. So what's that say about you?
Rip.
He is from Dallas and doesn't like Californians, probably. But yeah, that's the thing.
I don't understand why someone from Dallas wouldn't like people from California.
That's right. Just your two best friends, sucker.
That's what I meant.
So real quick before we move on to our next topic, our buddy, the Wax Heaven, Mario Alejandro, lost his dream follower, childhood idol. Jose Canseco unfollowed him this week.
Oof.
If we were prepared, we'd play a sad song for our buddy Mario.
Womp, 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 womp.
Too bad. There it is. Get over it. Should have followed Mark McGuire. Should have followed the better Bash brother. So yeah, that's fun. It's fun to kind of see who follows who, and who doesn't follow who, or who's been blocked by somebody for some reason unknown. Moving on to Bowman Draft, which came out right before Christmas, and a lot of people, myself included, were crying about the date because there's really nothing else to do when they moved it back for like 10 days.
Yep.
So there's a kid who plays for the St. Louis Cardinals. His name is Nolan Gorman. He's 18 years old. He was the 19th overall pick in 2018. He's currently a third baseman. Played rookie and A-ball last year, only appeared in 63 games. He hit 291, which isn't all that impressive, although he did have a 380 on-base percentage and a 570 slugging percentage. He had 17 home runs, 44 RBI in 63 games. His superfractor was pulled from Bowman Draft, and I would ask you if you know what it sold for, but I'm sure you read the show notes.
Indeed.
So it sold for $15,000. If you want to read up a little bit more about it, head over to Beckett, and our buddy Ryan Cracknell wrote a piece on it, just a brief piece basically stating what we just kind of, we highlighted. What do you think about an 18-year-old kid who was not a top 10 pick having a superfractor, his first Bowman card, sell for that kind of coin?
It seems kind of ridiculous when you think about it, just given that they're not all that famous. They're not a major name coming out of the draft or anything to that effect. As well, it's not like he was coming out of the minor league season this year and producing like 38 home runs or something in 20 games. Bit of a power hitter, bit of an average. However, it's ridiculous to see some of the Bowman draft prices. I mean, even now, I can't find a number to 5 or number to 10 from 2013 draft for my private collection for under 100 and $400, just because it was the first card printed for a relief pitcher that hasn't but barely cracked AAA.
When I saw his stats, I mean, Rhys Hoskins of the Phillies had some stupid stats when he first came up with the Phillies. When I saw the stats on this kid, Gorman, with the 17 home runs in 63 games, what it made me think of was Matt Olson of the A's. When Matt Olson came up last season, 2017, he appeared in just 59 games, but he hit 24 home runs and 45 RBIs. And prior to him being called up, I could buy Matt Olson autos and relics for under $5 all day long because that's what they were for. And 2017 was the year of Aaron Judge.
Yep.
And towards the end of the season, post All-Star break, after Matt Olson had come up, some of Olson's stuff was rivaling, Judge. I mean, it wasn't quite that high, but it wasn't that far. All of a sudden, this $5 auto was selling for $35, $45 or more, all because he was the next big thing. Now, he did play all 162 games in 2018, and he only had 29 home runs. 5 more home runs in a complete season. But he was a Gold Glove first baseman, and, players are going to adjust. I mean, if he can get his batting average up and get on base a little bit more, he hit 247. If he can get to like 265, this kid's going to be an all-star. I mean, he has a chance to have a really good career. But it just kind of goes to show you that, again, when we talk about Hoskins and Olson and other examples, these are major leaguers doing it at the major league level. This is an 18-year-old kid doing it in God knows what kind of a environment. I go to Stockton Ports games, which is a high A affiliate of the Oakland A's once in a while. It's a bandbox. Yeah, I'm sure if a guy was playing a bunch of games there, who's that? Who are we showing?
My blocking.
Oh, the Alana Rizzo.
Can we ask him about fuckface? And you're blocked.
So yeah, we apparently Bianca heard our birthday shout out. Well, good for her. Hopefully she's ordering lobster and steak and costing Tim $300-400 because she's worth it, Tim. If you're listening, stop listening. You can listen to us tomorrow.
And make Tim pay.
Yeah, and make him pay. Yeah, make sure he's whipping out the card that you're ordering the most expensive thing. His card. That's correct. So yeah, it's kind of crazy. Steph and I were on eBay prior to the show, and it looks like Gorman. I was just curious to kind of see what his stuff was selling for. Like, hey, I told Steph, I was like, let's just go buy a 2018 Bowman Draft base auto, non-numbered.
Sure,
What's it going to cost us? And it looks like his stuff is routinely running for 125 to 140 bucks on the low end. And not that long ago, his about 4 or 5 days ago, his gold out of 50 sold for $899.99. Buy it now. It's just crazy what his stuff is selling for. You know, but one of our followers, Mango Bango 69, in our chat, he said that Lucan Baker is going to be better. Mark his words. Just for comparative analysis, as Cardinals, he's the other Cardinal prospect in draft.
Yep.
He says, go that direction if you're going to go with one and not the other. I don't know what his stuff is selling for at the moment. But I think it can be happening.
The issue with Lucan Baker, and yeah, he I think he's 21. Just came fresh out of TCU down the road. Yeah, right direction. But he's been in Panini products with Team USA since like 2010, 2011. So there's a lot to pick up. However, there's a lot to pick up. Not that Bowman Draft doesn't carry a premium over Panini products.
So real quick, we're going to skip over a late edition that Steph had added. We'll skip over it and jump right back to it just because we're literally on the topic. There's a Twitter account called Prospects4, the number 4 Cash. Prospects4 Cash. The website Prospects4 Cash. 4 is now spelled out. FOR cash.com. If you go to the website, there's a complete list, or I don't know if it's complete, but a lengthy list of the early pricing trends for Bowman Draft, and quite a few of the bigger names that were on the list based off of his opinion. So Travis Swaggerty, for instance, selling for $15 to $25 a piece. His expectation, if you were to go there and go based off of what he's saying, he thinks you can probably have him for about $15 moving forward, at least for the foreseeable future. Jared Kelenic, who was just traded to Seattle, but it's part of the Mets on the checklist, is selling for $40 to $60. His estimation is a little high as of right now. But it's kind of a nice list. Just going based off of what we're seeing, what he's seeing. Nolan Gorman, he has for over $100. His thoughts are nope. Lucan Baker, by comparison, is selling for 15 to 20, a little high in his opinion. There's quite a few other guys on the list. If we're just going to kind of highlight them, Alex Baum of the Phillies is selling for around 50 to 60. Too high for him right now. Jordan Adams of the Angels selling for 30 to 40. Jonathan India of the Reds selling for around 50. He says he's a little surprised. Cody Clemens, son of Roger, for the Detroit Tigers, selling for around 15 to 20. He thinks it might come down to around 10, or he'd at least like to see it. And then Nick Madrigal of the White Sox is selling for around 50 to 60. He also expects that price to drop. So without counting them out, if you were just looking at the list, I'd say there's probably about 20 or so names on this list.
Yeah, give or take.
And kind of just some ideas, there's only one A on there. Obviously, when I first went on there, I wanted to take a look what Jeremy Iremans was selling for. He says good cost, selling for about $5 to $10 a piece. I just looked, and there's quite a few at auction for under $5. So, kind of a quick way to look for some of the bigger names from Bowman Draft all in one spot. Somebody kind of already did the homework for you, which is always nice.
Yep, it's always nice having extra resources.
Yeah, I'd never seen prospects for cash, so that's a new Twitter handle, and so that's kind of cool. Go check them out if you want. I'll have the About the Cards Twitter handle, retweet some of that stuff so that it's easy access. And then our last thought on Bowman Draft, which was laid out by Steph. I'll let him get into this. Bowman Draft Asia edition.
Sure. It's not so much that it's a huge concern. It's not something that Ben will get blocked over. But my question is, with these Bowman Draft Asia editions boxes being sold not to Asian markets, apparently. Should they be? Should they be allowed to? Is there any reason why certain breakers have it for sale listed for U.S. Purchasers when it's supposed to be a foreign market to expand the collection and the hobby into foreign markets?
Yeah, I mean, if it's available for sale, it's going to make its way to the States.
Well, sure, absolutely.
But then the question is, should breakers be busting it because they can? Or is it
Well, they're
something
going to
where
regardless, but then why call it the Asia edition if half of it's going to go to the U.S.?
Yeah, it's a good question. Yeah, is it being sold by domestic distributors? Do we know that?
Did what?
Are they? Do we know if it's being sold by domestic distributors?
Distributor. That's I hadn't heard.
Okay.
But I just saw it in my feed. A few people had posted, "Hey, we're breaking this product today. We're posting this for sale. Hey, we have it available. Hey, we have it available." It's like, but wasn't it supposed to be in Asia?
if you have international distributors, say selling into the Japanese market, and then
Sure.
you have ABC Breaker buying it from either directly from an international distributor or buying it from wholesaler of some kind, even buying it from a retailer, bringing it into the domestic market and then breaking it. There's really nothing that in this case Topps could do about one of their products falling into domestic hands, even though it's intended and was released internationally.
Well, and they don't care so much, and that they got their money.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing is, how far do you stretch it when at the end of the day your check's already cashed? It'd be nice if it stayed in foreign markets. Obviously, it's going to populate on the secondary market as it will.
Sure.
But yeah, if the whole intent is for it to increase, international interest in the brand, it would be nice if it stayed there, at least in the case and box arena before all the stuff gets opened and hits the secondary. But how would you even begin to control that? I don't think you could if you're Topps. It's just you sell it and it's going to end up where it's going to end up.
Well, exactly. Just a question just something as I was scrolling my timeline, it popped in my head. It's like, but isn't that? Meh.
So Mango Bango 69 says it was only sold in America and the cards are in English. There's nothing Asian about it. It's just duping the average uneducated consumer. Well, if that is the truth, then that is interesting, and that's altogether deceitful on the parts of the manufacturers, which is completely unnecessary and unjust.
Sure.
So, don't market it as one thing and then sell it as something else. But
let's slap on names just because we can.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, you just call it something else then. Just call it 2.0. And I guess it's another way to get around having yet another Bowman product, which I don't know if that would count towards their allotment of 5 or 6 or whatever it is that they're allowed to release each year.
That'd be interesting to look at. If we were to get access, that'd be interesting to see the actual terminology of this is how many they can release each year. This is what it actually costs. Here's the amount of print that you can have of certain teams, players, whatnot. What the actual breakdown of the not collective bargaining, but the actual agreement with Topps and with at least with Panini, with the Players Association.
So Tim said in our chat that he knows that Mojo Break is bought Transcendent. Yeah, dude, come on, seriously. I'm sure it's dessert time. Buy her a nice, dessert, whatever, McDonald's apple pie. I'm sure that's where you're probably eating at.
He spent that much, you think?
But he says that Mojo bought Transcendent Asian edition from an international wholesaler. And that goes back to the point that I had made. If that's how it is, then it's going to end up where it's going to end up. At least at the outset, it was sent to the correct market that it was
Right.
branded and catered to, but it came back. You know. So moving on to Flagship, which comes out here in just a couple of weeks. It officially is slated to release on the 30th of this month. It will be the first 2019 baseball release. So this is always kind of an interesting. This is kind of a two-part question. When is it too early for the first official release of the year? Before we move on, prefacing knowing that pitchers and catchers report on the 12th of February. So this product's going to come out 2 weeks before baseball season kind of sort of starts.
Right. I mean, we're, for all intents and purposes, we're a month out from the release and a month and change from actual pitchers and catchers reporting. And I had the add-on, when's it too late for a final release with as we've seen recently, 2017-2018 basketball. I saw plenty of discussion on this. That's Chops used to release it around Christmas time. That way people could purchase it, put it in stockings, and have it out super early. Personally, I think that's a bit early. End of January seems about right. It's right before spring training, right when everyone's kind of peak interest for the season, upcoming season is at its height. But is that too early for you? I guess is the real question.
We'll get on to part 2 of the question here in a second, but I almost think you have to consider this as part of the first question, which is when is it too late for the final release of the year? Yeah. So if we look at this in a vacuum, you're a month into the new calendar year when Flagship comes out. It's roughly 2 weeks prior to pitchers and catchers reporting, and roughly 2 months prior to the official first pitch of the new season. So sure. In a vacuum, it's not a big deal. 3 months after the end of baseball season from the previous year, so there's plenty of time in between. But then the question becomes, when is it too late for the final release of the year? Because we know that Bowman Draft and Bowman Best were right up against Christmas, which means that there's only a 6-month lull, or a 6-week lull between the end of 2018 to the beginning of 2019. That's almost the bigger question there, is if they push back, say, okay, as of November 1 or December 1, we're not releasing any more calendar year products. Now Flagship has, say, a 2-month window between the last and the new one. In which case I would say January 30th is fine. But sure. We all know that the simple fact that they're not releasing anything else in the month of January is enough to probably kill them. I mean, they've got other stuff, non-sports,
sure,
or soccer and stuff like that. But as far as baseball goes, which is where Topps makes its bread and butter, if we move this into other sports, it's so much easier to argue baseball than it is football, basketball, and hockey.
Just the reason is calendar year.
Yeah, they all cross over calendar years. Football being the one that's kind of questionable because the season ends prior to January, the regular season.
Right.
But you still get 5 weeks of postseason, the most important part of the season.
Sure.
Bleeds into the following year. So.
Well, and then, I saw it also discussed mostly by older collectors, but they brought up the point that, maybe not so much for Series 1 because Series 1, but there's not really much of a difference between 1 week to the next when there's a new set being released. There's a new set this week. There's a new set this week. There's a new set that week. You're not giving us time to actually sit down, reflect on the set, sit and think, hey, I actually collect this set outside of people that are going through a breaker or somebody buying a complete set for $20-$30 instead of buying the jumbo box for $100. You're not giving us enough time to actually sit and appreciate the set. Whereas, hey, here it is. And at least for Series 1, it's kind of a nice break when there isn't anything between when Draft came out and Series 1. But you just know 2 weeks after that, there's going to be a release from Topps.
Right.
Not spring training, but
Opening day.
Opening day. Yeah. Opening day is going to be out. And then it's going to be this. Then it's going to be that. And then, here's Series 2.
So hear me out on this idea for a second. This just came to me. What if you push Bowman Draft back to be the first release of the new calendar year? So Bowman Draft hits at the end of January with all of the previous year's draft prospects. Okay. And then sometime in February, you release Big League Baseball, which is your new opening day. Different design, different card, cheaper price point. And then going into March, you can even move something like Topps Archives or kind of a Topps Fire or something into February just to kind of fill out the calendar. And then March 1st or first week of March is your flagship. And March is a dark month. That's it. Flagship is your release.
Sure.
In March. And then April, you start to get into your, tribute and museum and some of the other stuff. And then you can find something else to do with opening day. Find a different product, that
call it Series 2, 1.5.
Yeah. I mean, just do away with opening day altogether. But keep a new product. Topps. You can go back to like Topps Bunt or something. So you have Big League Baseball and Bunt, but no more opening day because you don't really need it because flagship has moved back into the calendar by 4 to 6 weeks. And then you have like a 4-week intro for us all to enjoy and appreciate flagship Series 1 as we're anticipating the new season. And it's not rushed. You have a few weeks to digest it, and boom, here's the new baseball season. And
right.
Just a thought. Doubt something like that.
I don't know necessarily that I push draft into the next year because I like the symmetry for baseball anyway. January 1, we're into 2019 releases.
Right.
Now, if you push, for example, I like the idea of where the season starts out relatively low and pushes towards the higher end stuff. So you get like Transcendent and triple threads and whatnot towards the end of the season. But you have, opening day, Series 1, maybe a Topps Big, Alligator towards the middle month. So you're getting towards a little bit higher of a price point. Archives thrown in there too. Then start to throw out the big hitters. Series 2, Series 3, if there were such a thing, update. I like the symmetry of that better, but that's not that far off from what you're suggesting.
Yeah, well, what's to say that you don't do opening day become Series 3 and then just push it back further in the calendar?
Sure,
and
make it
so
3.
Now you have Series 1, 2, 3, and update. It's just an idea, something else. But personally, I kind of like the idea of pushing back flagship to March to where it's a little closer to the new season. And then you could still use late January and February to kind of do Bowman Draft, get people excited about some of the upcoming prospects that are brand new. That way it kind of introduces you closer to the season too, because a lot of times these players from previous years' drafts get invited to spring training. Kyler Murray is going to be in spring training, but he's not going to make the opening day roster for the A's, of course. But he's going to be in spring training. So if he was in Bowman Draft, for example, you release him in January, it gives us something to get excited about as February approaches. And, of course, March, when we actually see Kyler Murray playing in some baseball games. Even though we all know he's going down probably with the first roster cuts.
Sure, first, second roster cut.
Yeah, he'll be gone. Unless he's drawing a lot of fans, they might hang on to him, for another week or so just to let him interact with fans and whatnot. But, overall, we really need to kind of, if Topps is out there listening, which we have an inclination that they have in the past, if you're out there listening, hey, just a couple ideas out there to kind of move around your calendar, massage it a little bit, and possibly increase interest in sales.
Sure. Or maybe they've thought of it and tried parts of it and bombed. That's on them.
So, that's kind of interesting. We want to move on to at least one more topic real quick. Our good buddy Ken Kinsley, who you can find at Beans Card Blog, We mentioned Ken a lot. He's a really good friend to all of us.
Shut.
He's a brother in the hobby. If you don't follow him, definitely give him a follow. Read his blog. He has a lot of good stuff on there. He and I have gotten closer over the last couple of months. He's gotten into to tobacco cards more, and we've
Yep.
kind of bonded over the tobacco pre-war era stuff. He sent out a tweet that's one of those. I think we've all thought about it, but he kind of put it in words this week for all of us. His tweet was, "I just have no interest in collecting lately, but it's something I've done for 32 years now, or 75+% of my life. Without it, I don't know what to do. It's been second nature for so long." End tweet. So, what are your first thoughts to Ken's?
I kind of agree. Sorry, I had a cat break it through the door here. No, I mean, I kind of agree. I've definitely cut back from what I did, and part of that's just money's tight. But it's rough seeing all of these releases and only being able to look from the outside to window shop the set, knowing that eventually I have to go pick it up. Not so much, but the amount of people that I've met and some things that I'll discuss at a later point that pop up that make it hard not to see some of the collecting. I couldn't just walk away and sell my entire collection. I don't think you could either.
Right.
But there's not really much that's just super exciting outside of, yep, got to collect that set. Yep, it's the next year's set of this. Got to collect that too. Hey, Stadium Club's out. Got to collect that too. We're it's kind of losing the excitement, I guess.
It's to throw an analogy out there is when you're eating food, that first bite is always so satisfying because you've anticipated the taste. But it's scientific fact that with each additional bite, it becomes less satisfying because your taste buds are now accustomed to that particular taste. That's why it's ideal that we have multiple, I mean, not just for health reasons, to have, fruits and vegetables along with our main course. But if you're eating the same thing, if you just eat a slice of pizza, one after another, it's rapidly declining the satisfaction that you're getting from the taste itself. You're still getting any nutritional value or dead calories or, fat and cholesterol, etc. But it's a proven fact. And so it's the same kind of a thing that if you want us to anticipate and enjoy collecting, you're giving us too much.
Yeah.
The worst thing that you can do as a parent, for anybody out there that's listening that has kids, and I think we're all guilty of this, is you give your kid too many options. You don't ask them, where do you want to go to dinner? You say, hey, we're going to McDonald's or we're going to Burger King. Which one do you want to go to? You've already made the decision and you're okay with the difference between, 2 or 3 restaurants maybe. But if you're like, hey, let's go, what do you want? Steph, you want to go get some Chinese? You want some Mexican, some Italian? You want to get a burger, salad? What sounds good to you? Well, now you've opened up Pandora's box. And that's kind of what these companies are doing is they're throwing so many options at us. And we have this innate desire as a completionist. I got to have it all. If you're making it, I want it all. And it's getting to the point where you can't collect it all. And it almost gets to that point where it's like, why should I collect any of it then? Right. It's so frustrating. It just makes it tough as a collector. And we can definitely empathize with Ken's position.
It's one of those that it's a stereotypical argument that new wedded couples in particular have of, well, where do you want to go for dinner? I don't know. Well, what do you want to eat? I don't know. Well, how about do you want a burger? No, I don't want a burger. Well, instead of drawing all of that out, say, hey, do you feel like A, B, or C, and then letting them choose.
Absolutely.
That way they get their choice, and you've given 3 options that you're not opposed to yourself. Simple solution.
To kind of take it like a buffet, you have all of these different options, but basically because of how most of us choose to collect or want to collect, It's like going to a buffet and literally putting everything on a little bit of everything on your plate, knowing damn well you can't eat it all. In other words, you can't afford it all, but yet you're trying to chase it.
Right.
I got to have a little piece of each release, because if I don't, or then it becomes, our natural sense of competition comes out. Well, if you have it, Steph, I need to have it.
Well, but then I can't discuss it with you because I haven't broken any of it.
Yeah, it becomes such a difficult. Our friend Once a Cup says collecting is cyclical, and yeah, it really is. And it's, for any of us that grew up in hobby households, my dad has all kinds of collections, and I always joke with him about, you're not a baseball, or you're not a card collector, because you're a Wizard of Oz collector and a Star Wars collector and a Beatles collector and a train collector. You can't be a card collector too. And financially you can't, but it's one of those things, like, it's just like, I gotta have. And
Sure.
What point do you start to wear out and just go, maybe I don't want any of it?
At what point should it be more of a I not necessarily I have to have, but you want to have. Wants are
Right.
nice, but you can only afford and have less. Unless you're like a millionaire.
Yeah.
I mean, that ain't necessarily our demographic. So,
Just real quick, I want to throw a shout out to our friend Larry, who's been extremely active in our chat room tonight.
absolutely.
We usually do the following every 4 or 5 episodes. Good Twitter follow. If you haven't already followed Larry, I'm just going to say Larry. I'm going to butcher his last name, but you can find him at Silver JP2, James Paul 2, Silver JP2. Great fellow collector. He and I met on Twitter probably a couple months back now. Have a lot of interactions throughout the weeks and whatnot. So give him a follow. But he brought up a part. The biggest thing too is, his point is, even within the same product, we have 60 different choices of variations, which is a little bit high, but it's really not. I mean, Bowman has something like 25, 26 parallels of each player. And if the average team has 8 players on a checklist, good gosh, man, that's 150 different cards to collect if you just want all the parallels, assuming that you can find them all. And an average of, say, $7 a piece, that's $1,000. I'm sure I could find a better way to spend $1,000.
Absolutely. I think we all can.
It's just so frustrating. And so have you ever taken time off from collecting? And if so, why did you, and what made you come back, since you're obviously collecting now?
So you not just because you're Ben, but you're going to have more to say here. But I really haven't, per se. My first few packs and boxes and blasters and repacks, were with Parents' money, sure. But once I started getting my own first paycheck a few years later, I've been pretty much actively collecting since. Now I've changed my routine where I only went after Series 1, Series 2, and opening day update or whatever, just because that's what you can find in retail, to busting boxes, and what it currently is, just buying twins. I've changed how I've collected, but I haven't stopped collecting itself. And
yeah, our friend Once a Cub says that he used to be a set collector. Now he just collects Cubs and an occasional set.
Sure.
Which I think is pretty run of the mill for people that are team collectors. You'll grab maybe Flagship or piece together a set here or there, or grab a Cold Aided Heritage or Bowman set if the price is right.
Sure.
He now says he actively collects base Cubs, unnumbered inserts, and he passively collects anything serial numbered over 100, and as he sees fit, anything under 100, which probably means anything that is affordable.
Sure.
Because a lot of that stuff can get stupid, and when $8, before you know it, you spend $100
right
on just $6-8 cards. And Tim and I have both mentioned we got out of the hobby around the same time for different reasons. Mine being my parents' divorce. I found my way back to the hobby around 2010 with one box of one set of football cards, 2010 Topps flagship football, and it turned into baseball. And I'd been a collector of sets in the 80s and 90s, so why wouldn't I do that now? And I try to do that with insert sets and making your checklist, and then you realize you're never going to get around to completing this.
Nope.
And before I move on to my thoughts of what made you come back, so to speak, our last point on this particular topic was going to be suggestions for our listeners, what they should do if they end up losing their luster or it starts to wane or fade. I got to a point where I realized I can't collect everything, and that pisses me off because I want to. So then I went back and said, what makes me happy? What of my collection am I most excited about? And that was A's cards. I'm an A's fan, and I don't need random Rays and Mariners and Twins cards. No offense.
Sure.
But Twins cards get you excited, and that's awesome. But A's cards get me excited. And it gets guys like Brian Bice excited, and our friend wants a Cubs cards, and so on and so forth. And
Jenny Twin.
That's Jenny Miller loves the Twins, and Tim obviously, he loves the Indians and the Tigers and the White Sox. But collect what you like. Find out what makes you happy. And I know our friend Ken has started buying more and more
tobacco
pre-war
racing.
Yeah, more pre-war, more specifically tobacco, the T206, the pre-1915 stuff. So what makes him happy.
Nice. It's really nice at a show having him come up and say, "Hey, check out my T206 binder. I just got this." Or I sold out my display case, except for a few players, and bought two T206s. You want to see them? Hell yeah, I want to see them. I want to see a 2018 Bowman draft number to 5.
Oh, exactly. Do you know what card he bought? There's a big card that he bought recently. It escapes me which player it was.
His wife?
From T206. Pardon me?
I said his wife.
No, funny.
Well, I mean, he's getting married. Married or
he's getting married.
Getting married.
Yeah. He and Crystal, I think they're getting married the 29th of this month. So if Ken ends up listening to this, hey, congratulations. Don't do it. But if you must, I'm sure Crystal's a very she's a very nice lady.
No, she is. I met her once or twice.
I was scrolling through to see if I could find out. I forget which player he had bought. Tris Speaker, I think it was. And I'll keep it private what he spent on it. That's his information to share. But he's like, I think I overpaid. And I was like, dude, it's your money. Are you comfortable having spent that money? He goes, yeah. I said, it's your money. Who cares? If you're okay with it, what's it matter what you spend it on? And hell, that's a card that any of us older collectors would salivate over. And he got it for a hell of a price. And I'm good with that.
And
he's good with that.
I'm pulling up the tweet here. It's one of those that, my parents brag on me all the time. Oh, you bought another blaster. You bought another blaster. I'm like, yeah, but there are worse hobbies I could have. I could be a drug addict. I could be an alcoholic. Sure. I could be this, that, or the other. I'm not. Mine's harmless. And I can resell mine if I so choose.
Sure. Oh, is that his Tris Speaker card that he bought?
Easy to narrow down to 2. I picked this over T213 Scoops Carry for 2 reasons. I think I truly got a steal on this, and the color has to be the prettiest PSA 1 out there. And I agree, that is pretty nice looking. Yeah,
that looks like a lot better than PSA 1. And I know what he spent on it. You're welcome to ask him.
Sure.
I don't want to share that information just because it's not mine to share. However, dude, if you found out what he paid for it, all of us would have grabbed that. Let's just say you could have that, or you could have that Gorman kid for the Cardinals that's coming out. Where would you rather spend your money? And the thing is, if you ever had to liquidate your collection because you have to, not because it's a choice, but because you got to put food on the table, that Tris Speaker is going to hold its value. We don't know about a lot of these cards that we've bought. There's all kinds of ways to blow stupid money, you know. And our friend Larry had shared his story in the chat room that I'll pass on here. Let me scroll up for a second. He said he got into girls when he was about 17, so he got out of the hobby. Got back about 5 years ago at age 37 because he could afford the cards now that he never could as a kid. And I think to some degree that parallel runs true. You know, Tim and I both got out around age 13, 14 for the same reason. You know, you're in high school, interests are different. You pick up that hobby. You know, my dad used to have a space at a local antique mall, and he called it Rick's Toy Box because it was actually like an area off of the antique mall. It was a separate room that you had to enter, and it looked like a big giant toy box. And it had all the stuff, G.I. Joes and Masters of the Universe and stuff from the 50s and 60s and 70s. And so many people went in there, and it was a nostalgia trip. You know, it's like walking back in there as a 6-year-old. And he was always telling me how difficult it was to sell some of this stuff. And I said, what sells? Like let's go to the antique mall and let's open up a spot, because it was consignment, right?
Sure.
You know, 50, 60 sellers there. I said, what sells? He goes, furniture and jewelry. I said, you know what people love about your space? It's like an acid trip back to their childhood. Oh my God, I had that. Man, I always wanted that. But I said, how many people actually walk out of there with it? He goes, not very many. And that's why he's no longer there. You know, it's easier for him to sell on eBay, where, you know, you have a very niche market that's focused on whatever it is you're selling. But, you know, to go through there, I loved walking through there, because heck, half those toys I probably played with or had the same one that I did play with when I was a kid. You know, it was fun. It was, you know, I'm not going to go to Toys R Us. I'm just going to go to my grandpa's house, you know, my dad's house. You know, my son Bentley loves going to grandpa's house, who he's now moving in with us, which is going to make it even worse because it's going to be right here in my home. But he's got he's got his grandpa's toys to play with. Pretty cool. You know, but I don't think anybody really wants to go back and recollect a lot of that stuff. You know,
sure, and I mean some of that's niche, and you have to find like the one right person who wants it. But a lot of that, like you said, it's nice to walk in and say, "Hey," for example, my mom's been going back through eBay and picking up some of her favorite toys from the 70s. Now, some worthless and pennies on the dollar, but it's kind of cool to see her enjoyment of some of that older stuff. And I can only imagine actually walking into a store and seeing all of that.
All in the showcase. You can enjoy it. You can visit it whenever you want, but you don't have to take it home, and it costs you nothing.
Exactly.
You know, you can relive your childhood in a matter of 10 or 15 minutes while you're there. But he still has it. A lot of that stuff that was for sale. And, you know, but you know, I've got over 50 Maguire 85s now. And after Christmas hit, I'm close to 500 87s. And I was trying to explain the thought process to my wife when she's like, why do you need that many? And it's like, because I always wanted that many as a kid.
Sure.
40-year-old Ben can afford what 10-year-old Ben couldn't. And I'm not overspending. If the price is right, I'll pick them up. If I'm at a show, I'll pick it up. You know, I've got 13 or 14 Henderson rookie cards now. But a lot of them are in low grade, and they're worth exactly what I paid for them.
Sure.
But it's kind of cool to have a whole page full of them. I don't need 50 of them. But if I end up with 2 or 3 pages full, hey, that's kind of neat.
Sure. You know? And I mean, if you're going to a store and you see one in the nickel bin, are you going to turn it down? Well, maybe if you don't have a nickel on you and you have to break a dollar bill, but I wouldn't.
Yeah, and real quick, while we're on the topic of cards, I want to throw a shout out to our buddy Shane, who you can find at Sports with an S Mania card. He hit me up the other day with a 1992 Dairy Queen set. It was a 33 card set, which featured cards from different USA sets. I believe it featured cards from 85. All the way up through 92, includes McGuire, Giambi, Larkin, Abbott, Clark, and Ventura, just to name a few. But McGuire being one of them. and it says Team USA across the top, Dairy Queen in the lower left, but it's the picture from the 85, and I had never seen it. And so I thank Shane for showing me that. I bought 2 on Sport Lots for super cheap. They're not worth anything, but they're kind of neat just to stick in the binder. Archives did one in 01, I believe, which was just an Archives version of the 85 USA. That's kind of cool to have another oddball one. So Brian, you need to go on Sport Lots and buy one for your A's team set, or A's PC. Just real quick, one last quick topic. We don't have to spend a whole ton of time on it. It was kind of an afterthought. Since I brought up that card specifically, somebody on eBay had one for $4.99 or best offer, $2 to ship. I offered him $3, which would be a $5 bill out the door. He countered with $4. I had already bought 2 off of Sport Lots for $3 shipped, so I declined. So when you see something for like $100 buy it now or best offer, as a general rule of thumb, I figure anything over 70% is a fair offer, even if I don't expect it to be accepted if I'm the buyer, or I might not accept it if I'm the seller. 70% and above is fair, at the very least.
You think?
If you're the seller at 100 and I say, Steph, I got 70 for you, do you take the 70 or do you counter saying, hey, I'll meet you in the middle? Or do you just outright decline because it's an insult?
Well, it depends what it is. But for example, a few years back, I want to say 2010, 2011, 2012 update, somewhere in there. I bought a box and I pulled a jumbo patch of some giant, and I think it might have been a book. But somebody said, hey, I have money now if you take it at, I think it was like 80% off, 20% off. Well, okay, 80 whatever price, $80 or $60 now. Sure, I can hold out, but hell yeah, I'm going to take that $60.
Right.
And it comes down to, do you need the money now or do you want to hold out for the best option? Oh, you could wait, sure.
And $15. The guy had to buy it now for $5. I offered him 60% on the dollar, right?
Sure.
$3 because shipping's separate, but it's still a hard cost. It still has to come out of my bank account, so it's still $5 shipped. So my offer at $3, a $5 hard cost versus his hard cost of $7. He counters with $4, and he probably thought, hey, it's probably a fair deal. If he pay $3, he'll pay $4. He's saving $1. The problem is he overvalued his card and didn't know what the market was for it. And I could buy a ton more. Yeah, I mean, it was honestly, it was probably the least expensive on eBay, but there were ones cheaper on Sport Lots. And so at what point do you look at it and go, he kind of botched a deal. He had an opportunity to make a sale and chose not to. At what point do you risk losing the sale over a marginal profit? In other words, he had $3 in the bank. He wanted $4 and he lost the sale. So now that card is still available on eBay. At what point do you chalk up that marginal difference and just say three is worth it just to get rid of it? Obviously, I'm in the market to sell it. That's why it's listed.
Right. Well, and for me personally, I'm more caught off guard that, hey, somebody actually wants this. If you want to come at me with an offer that's at least 60, 70, 75%, and it's not like a quarter for something that's $1, if we're really fighting about that, then out of spite I'll deny it. But if it's a good offer, 60, 75% of what I'm asking, yeah, go ahead and have it. Merry Christmas.
Yeah, just a couple of quick thoughts. If you're, either a seller or a buyer, specifically if you're a seller, consider the fluid market for the item or lack thereof. If it's an item, from 1992 that is going to sit there for a while, if it doesn't look like it's going to sell, just let it go. Take what you can get and walk away. If it's a brand new product, maybe, something newer that hasn't seen a lot, or something that you just recently listed. And so you're not sure what the market is. I listed something my dad had at his antique mall. It was an old set of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle action figures.
Hmm?
and it was a specific set. He had the 4 turtles, plus he had a foot soldier and Bebop and Rocksteady, if I'm not mistaken, were the 7.
Nice.
And I looked up and I was like, "There's no way these are selling for this." I ended up listing the 7 of them for $699.99, and somebody made me an offer within 10 minutes of listing it for $450. And I'm like, "Okay, am I high at $700 or is $450 more the market value? I don't want to pass on $450 trying to squeeze this dude." And while I'm thinking about it, somebody else came back at me with an offer of $399.99. So I was like, well, $450 sounds pretty good. And do I just hedge my bet and just take it? I called my dad. I'm like, "These are yours. What do you want to do?" He goes, accept the offer.
Sure.
And he's like, "What are the odds that not one of those turtles, just, oh, Michelangelo's my kid's favorite, or that was my favorite growing up, if one of those turtles had sold," and he had $15 a piece for him at the antique mall or something, that's all it would have taken. So, sometimes just consider the fluid market. If you something you just listed, maybe counter. What are you comfortable selling it for? Consider your desire to sell versus getting every last penny, and always
Sure.
look to other listings and look to sold listings to see what, if
Especially
not,
listings.
yeah, if one sold for what you have it listed at, but it hadn't sold for a year, well, but there's other ones listed, then there just aren't very many buyers out there.
Yep.
But if you're the first one to list one and it's been a year since the last one sold, consider that too, that maybe this item's just not coming up very often. So, yeah, it's a case by case situation, but at the end of the day, I've seen it. I've blasted a lot of people on Twitter, and I've blasted my dad in conversations
You've
over.
blasted on Twitter.
I have. Well, because I'll make a comment about a personal experience with, like this. I offered 3 on a $5 card. He counters at 4, and I'll have somebody say, "Well, meet me in the middle." Well, no, there's no meet me in the middle. $3 was actually more than I should offer to begin with,
Sure.
because there are multiple ones available elsewhere. There was one on Check Out My Cards for $1.84. But then there's also shipping associated. So, you have to look at your auction price, your buy it now price versus your landed cost, which has shipping included. But at the end of the day, it's kind of interesting. Countering, meeting in the middle is not always the best scenario. So just kind of take it on a case by case basis. Understand what you have or what you're offering. If there's a ton of them out on the market, then you're well within your rights to offer.
Yeah, I mean, and that's fair. Outside of, like I said, check the sold listings, I think would be to get a good guideline of what your stuff is actually valued at. What do you think it's worth? Not what it may have sold for once, way back when it was first listed, when the product was new. But do your research, and hopefully so.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, do you have anything else for us tonight, Steph? Otherwise, we can call it a night.
No, not really.
Okay. Just a couple of quick closing things. Remember, we are live most every Wednesday, once in a while, the odd Thursday,
And occasionally, all of us are here.
and occasionally all of us are here. One of these weeks, we'll all get back together again. It'll be like we can sing like the Muppet song, "Together Again," something, 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 together again. I think it's from Muppets Take Manhattan.
So Manhattan.
So yeah, we're here every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Most of us are Pacific Standard Time on YouTube. Make sure to subscribe and review our show on YouTube, iTunes, or Stitcher, all of the above. Follow us on Twitter at About the Cards. Steph is at Junk Wax Twins. Shep is at Big Shep 79. You can also look at his website, which I know he's actively in the process of updating and trying to get it to where it needs to be. His website is bigshepscards.com, and I am at Our Trading Cards. So if you have any thoughts or you want to chime in on what your thoughts are on buy it nows versus countering and offers,
tell us why we're wrong.
yeah, if you want to chime in on your thoughts about what Ken had to say, we definitely like to hear your thoughts of, have you considered quitting, paring back, and why? What are your thoughts about Flagship being released January 30th? What are your thoughts on Bowman Draft Super selling for 15 grand? Tops Living, we always like to chat and check out our buddy Tops Living Stat at Twitter, and he has a lot of good numbers. If you're analytical like myself and Steph, and you like to know the numbers and argue and debate the semantics thereof, give him a follow and get into some discussions, debates, arguments with all of us there, because it's fun. It's kind of fun to see who thinks what and why, and at the end of the day, we can all not block one another. We can all be friends and walk away and live to see another day. So,
can we?
Well, some of us can. I had explained to my 4-year-old today what debating was. He goes, I was arguing with my friend the other day. I said, over what? He goes, which one of our characters on Paw Patrol we like the best? I'm like, well, I think you were debating, not arguing. And so I had to try to explain to him the difference, and that didn't go over so well.
Well, as long as you guys aren't fighting.
Yeah, it's like you can't block her either, because when you go to Nana's, that's her actual grandma. So you got to be friends. Oh, one last thing. Check out. My dad said, I bought you a 1952 Topps car, Mickey Mantle. He forgot to tell me
it was a T-shirt.
It was on a T-shirt, but it's the thought that counts. And so, all right, my friend, it's good to have you back. We missed you.
Sure, likewise. Nice to
be
back.
It's on YouTube. Everybody knows I missed you.
I heard it. I'll record it.
Yeah. Well, thank you everyone for listening. Thanks to Larry and Brian and Once a Cub and anybody else, Matt.
Yes.
I think I got everybody that was participating in the chat this evening. Besides Tim, who needs to get back to enjoying time with his wife. We appreciate everybody for interactive listening, even if you can't listen live. I know my dad tries to catch us the next day, and then he tries to analyze it. He always tells me, you need to show more pictures if you talk about something, because not all of us know what you're talking about.
You're trying. We're trying on that. I think we've been better about that most recently.
I said, when Steph's here, we're usually pretty good about it. When Steph's not here, it's just that's what Google's for. I said, but when we say, hey, blah, 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 Stadium Club, most people that are listening know what Stadium Club is.
Sure.
We don't have to show a base card, but we will do our best. It was good feedback. We will try to do our best if we're talking about something specific on cards for those that are viewing, where you can actually see the video. We will try to post them, but that is Steph's area of expertise. So, don't expect Tim or I to do it. We're too lazy. So, all right, everybody. All right, friends. We love you all. We appreciate the support. We appreciate all the feedback, and we look forward to it. And let us know any thoughts or ideas you may have, and because we need show topics for next week and the week after that and the week after that. So we appreciate all the support.
Of course, and a belated from me anyway. Happy holidays, Happy New Year, and let's enjoy 2019.
And happy birthday, Bianca, the better half of the Shepler clan.
I knew there was a third. Yep, so, happy birthday.
Night, everyone.
Good night.